Hey guys, just a reminder as we start this episode that we can now be found on the Unfiltered app. So iOS or Android, just download Unfiltered Outdoors. You can see live hunting, literally live, and a bunch of other shows and podcasts. So check us out on the Unfiltered app. But this week we're super excited to hook back up with Blake Garrett from Unfiltered, and they just got back from an epic moose hunt up in Saskatchewan, and there's some great stuff in this show, so hope you enjoy. All right, guys, we're back. Brand new Take Aim podcast. And as always, excited to have my buddy Blake with me from Unfiltered Outdoors. What's up, Blake?
Not much, man. How are you?
Good, man. Excited to have you back and excited to talk about something I know very little about, and that's moose hunting. So.
Yeah, I don't know much either. I feel like a professional after about 10 days of it, I can tell you.
I bet you guys were kind of grinding it out.
Oh, yeah. It's completely foreign. I mean, like, completely different than anything I've ever done in my life. So, but really, really cool hunt.
Yeah, so you guys, well, tell me a little bit about just the trip, where you guys went and who you hunted with and all that good stuff, how many hours the drive was, because, man, even I was tracking you guys and it looked brutal.
It was. It wasn't too bad. We took 4 guys, so we kind of had to change over, and it's about 22-hour drive up there, because we went through a different port to go up than we did coming back. I think coming back it ended up, we cut it down to like 18. But John's been going up there. This was John's 3rd year going up to it's Battle River Outfitters, hunting with Rick Albert, and it's up in Saskatchewan, kind of near like Battleford or North Battleford, as a city goes. But John's been going up for, like I said, the last 3 years, and John said, man, we got to go around and go through this other port to get into Canada. It's just a lot easier to get through as a hunter. I don't know if it's a liberal thing or what, but the closer port seems to really, they give a lot of trouble to hunters that go through. So we kind of went around it. Yeah, and I wish I knew the name of that port, and I don't, but I'll try to get it out there if you guys have any questions or anything. I know that we came through North Portal coming back. So we went around it, though. We went to another port just to get through easier, and it was super easy to get through. I had kind of prepared for some crazy interrogation stuff at the border, but they literally just stop you, ask you, 4 or 5 questions from the window, and you go on through. So it was super easy to get through. But yeah, so like I say, I think 22 hours. So we went about 4 hours out of the way, to get around that port. But ultimately, man, it was a drive that was painful. I don't think I've ever done like a 22-hour drive in the truck, and it's not so much you driving, but just riding in a truck for 22 hours is pretty painful for sure.
Oh man, it is. I think the only place I know in Saskatchewan, sadly, is Saskatchewan, but man, it just seems like it's such a hike up there, Yeah,
it was.
It's such a big country. It just probably seems like it's a longer drive even.
Oh yeah. It's just, and once you get to Canada, like you say, it's just flat and just wide open, and you just want to get there because you want to go on a moose hunt, and you got to ride.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm actually still kind of dealing with I'll call it car lag. I don't know. It's like when you're up for 22 hours straight and travel all that way, you get home and you're still not really right yet. You haven't slept right. Your sleep pattern's off. So I'm still dealing with that right now. But
yeah, for sure. I know I've done a few, like Michigan to Kansas, once or twice when I've been there. I think one of the drives, I think it said 16 hours, but by the time we got there, it was 18. And it just felt like you were still in the car, even though you were out walking around. You could still feel like your body moving, like the force from the car. I think after 12 hours, your body just starts to feel a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's completely not natural.
But give me a little info on, I know you just said who you guys hunted with. Forgive me, I forgot the name already. But
Battle River Outfitters.
Battle River. So give me a little layout of what he had to offer as far as, did you guys hunt? I know a lot of places in Canada hunt a lot of province land or Royal Crown land. So what was some of that like? What did you guys do?
Yeah, so it's actually on Indian reservation there. So it's kind of nice because you can get a tag. You're guaranteed a tag. And it's a really, honestly, the hunt is a really, really cheap moose hunt. It is unbelievable. I think to go up and shoot a moose, you pay $4,800, and that covers your tag as well. So you're in there. What we did was we actually stayed in a hotel, but they do have some campers and stuff there at their camp that you can stay in. We went up, stayed in a hotel, and then went out to met up with Rick and Colin, our Indian guide, and kind of went and looked at the property. This property was a property John had hunted, the previous 2 years, so John knew it really, really well. So we just went up and kind of started in areas where John had success. And, October is really when the rut is. And we had the cold weather to really help us. I think the warmest it ever got while we were up there is in the mid-30s. And every night it was down to low 20s. So really, really cold weather, which helped a lot with kind of the way the rut set up. And, man, the bulls were just calling. It was just unbelievable. I mean, you go out there, and it's funny because we were watching like YouTube videos on how to call in moose.
Right.
That's how bad it was, because we're trying to learn it. It just, you can always learn, so kind of know the sound and you know what to do. But, man, it's just something you got to do. It's like trying to call in turkeys for the first time or trying to call a whitetail in.
You got to practice.
It's different. You just gotta figure it out, and you got to know, when to go, when to not, all that stuff, and try to read your animal. And it took us a couple of days. I think John actually got on one very quickly. I think the second day we were there, we hunted together the first night, called in a moose, but you could never see it. Like it was crazy. It's so thick you can't even explain it. It's thickest timber I've ever seen in my life, and the moose are loud, coming through the timber, much like what a cow would sound like coming through the timber,
Sure.
But you never see them. Like, you just don't see them. You can hear them, but you just don't see them, yeah. So you're just setting up somewhere, especially with us filming, that, we have somewhat of an opening. And these moose are great at, you call them, and they'll come all the way through the timber, and they'll stand about 20 yards off the edge, and to where they can just see through, and you just never get them out on the edge. It's just really, really tough. So we learned pretty quickly that if you heard one, or if we were able to locate one, you just went in the timber at him and just hoped that when you guys met, you could shoot him. I mean, that's pretty much what it was.
Yeah.
And it was nice because as long as you had the wind, you could make as much noise as you wanted to going through, because you weren't going to be any louder than he was. So, and it didn't scare them. So, I mean, if you're going through and you're calling and you're breaking limbs and in the leaves and all that stuff, it actually puts some realism to your calling, because he thinks that's another bull moose coming through the timber.
Right.
So it was, we figured that out quick, and John got in on a bull, I think the second night, and had a bow, and the moose came in at like 40 yards. John thought he had a lane, shot through it, and hit a limb, and the arrow went over his back. So that was a really cool encounter, and kind of gave us some, some intel on what to do and how to handle them when they're coming in. So the next night, I think we hunted together some, just trying to help, kind of like turkey calling, just set back and try to call a bull into an area, and just so tough to get them out of that. So I think the fourth night, the third evening, we separated, and we went, Austin and I went to a different part of the farm, and it's just a new part that nobody had been to yet, and I just wanted to call it and see what would happen. And we had a bull answer like over 1,000 yards away. I mean, just barely could hear him, and it was dead calm, and I started calling back to him, and, man, he started covering distance, and we heard him come all the way in, and he had one little ditch to get to us, and that ditch was so thick it was unbelievable. And I, looking back on it now, I should have probably just bulldozed through that ditch to meet him on the other side of it, but I didn't at the time, and set up high, and he came through smashing trees, and, I mean, he knocked over trees that were, the size of a grapefruit around, just pushed them over. And, I came in and did just, grunting the whole way, smashing stuff, came all the way into 15 yards, and I had a rifle, and I couldn't kill him at 15 yards. I mean, that's how thick it was.
No way.
It was unbelievable. Like, I could see a paddle, and that was it. And he stood at 15 yards, actually shook because he came through a slough, and he swam a slough to get to us, and shook, and he was so close that you could hear, like, his jaw shaking and when he shook his antlers.
My God.
It's insane. But the audio from the encounter is absolutely crazy. I put a little clip on my Instagram page the other day from somebody like him coming in and just grunting and stuff. But it was definitely like the first time I've ever been scared in the woods. Especially with a rifle in my hand.
Right.
Usually,
is he gonna bust through this stuff and come right at me and run me down?
Yeah, exactly.
Or what?
Yeah. Like not thinking, I knew if he knew we were humans, he wouldn't mess with us, but he just legitimately was upset and thought we were a bull. And I feel like, if I would have kept pushing him into that thick stuff, I think he would have just charged through it, to come at the bull. So we sat tight, and he kind of had a standoff with him, and then he stood around and started doing a roar, which I didn't even know moose did. It sounds like a bear roar, really. But he did that like 5 or 6 times, and it's a super, super cool audio. And then he starts smashing some stuff, and he kind of moves off. He never really knew what we were. He just thought he ran the bull off. So we went right back in there on him, that next morning and started calling, and then within 30 minutes, here he comes walking, and he actually came out in the open, walked down to us, and, we got the best footage we could with what the situation we were in with him and got him killed. And it had me hooked. I mean, that encounter that night before just had me freaking, I was shook on it. I was like, dude, this is something that I'm going to do as long as I can. Like, it was so much fun.
Wow. That's pretty wild. I meant to ask earlier, Blake, so give me a little info on, like, the Indian reservation. So is it a place that basically, do you have to get permits from the Indian reservation ahead of time, or is that all done with the outfitter that you're hunting with?
It's all done with the outfitter, and you pick them up when you get into camp.
Okay. And how big is this Indian reservation?
It's huge, ginormous. That Rick has access to around 50,000 acres.
Oh my goodness.
To guide on, to outfit on, and then it's just packed up. The cool thing is, you can hunt like whitetail, you can hunt mule deer, you can hunt elk, and you can hunt moose, all in the same area, like all in the same farm, and all the tags are $300.
No way.
Yeah, so it's really, really cool. So, like, if you do end up killing a moose early, and you have room, or you want to donate the meat or whatever, you can go out and hunt elk if you want. And, the elk are on a different part of the farm, obviously. They're using the ag stuff, but they all stay in the thick stuff and then come out. Or you can go hunt mule deer, you can go hunt whitetail. So it's really, really a cool, almost combo hunt. I mean, we were going to combo out with elk and moose if we ended up getting our moose done early. And I ended up killing mine, on day 4, but John didn't kill his till day, I think, 6 or 7 or something like that. So
yeah, it was definitely a few days later, I saw.
Yeah, so we were kind of hanging around, trying to help him out with his. And honestly, I'm glad we didn't kill an elk, because we would have had zero room to get the meat back. It was the size. I knew a moose was big, but I just didn't comprehend the actual size.
The actual size is unreal.
Yeah, it below. I mean, when you got to move, it took us 2.5 hours to move mine 150 yards with an Argo and 5 guys.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, that's just insane.
It blows your mind. It's not even fathomable how big they are.
No, it's not. I got to kind of be up close to one last year when I was in camp in Alberta, and a guy from Maine flew in. For opening day of moose, they were done by 1 o'clock, and he shot an absolute tanker of a moose. I think it was, I want to say it was 48 inches, if I remember right. So, I mean, it was just shy of 50. But, I mean, like you're just saying, Blake, the actual size is something to be seen. Like, and I'll just say TV does it no justice. These things are ginormous. I mean, they're ginormous. They're ancient freaking dinosaurs almost. It's unreal.
Right.
They are so cool.
Yeah, 7 foot tall and just freaking thick. It's just, I don't know.
Hearts the size of 2 footballs or a soccer ball.
Yeah, The heart's bigger than my head. I mean, it is unbelievable. Like we took the heart out to keep it and eat it and all that, and I pulled out and I'm like, oh my Lord, like it's a freaking 5-pound heart. Like it's just unreal how the sheer mass of them it's unbelievable. And I'm a guy who hunts mule deer and whitetails a ton, and you kill one of those and it's like, okay, yeah, we can drag him out with 5 guys out of anywhere.
Right.
And you weren't even, to roll this moose to get pictures, it took 5 of us just to roll him over one time. Like, it's unbelievable.
Man, that's crazy. So now how does he do it or direct you guys? Do you guys get up early in the morning and hunt, or is it something where they only hunt moose midday to late in the evenings, or what's usually the hunting game plan?
It's pretty much like whitetail hunting. I mean, you're up in the morning, you're early, you're there at daylight, essentially. The biggest thing is it's hard to hear a moose grunt. It's a little easier. I mean, you can hear them. If it's calm, you can hear one from over 1,000 yards away if it's dead calm. But if you get a little bit of wind or anything like that, it can be hard to hear them. They don't call real well as it gets lighter. It's almost like, like turkeys. Turkeys are a lot more vocal in the morning, and they're a lot more vocal at night when they go to bed. Like it's kind of like that. I mean, we were hunting. I think sunset was like 7:45 out there, and from 7 o'clock on, moose were everywhere. It was like the woods came on fire in the evenings. And in the mornings, they really were not calling very well. They weren't vocal. They would almost come in silent on you more than they would call back to you in the mornings. But I don't know why they were like that. It just seemed to lay out like that. Now, the last day when John killed his, he said they were calling really, really well that morning, but we had a little bit more of a cold snap. I think it was in the teens, and had a pretty heavy frost. I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not, but pretty much in the midday you would not hunt them. I mean, you could go try, but just to get a bull out of his bed to answer you and to come was pretty slim to none. Yeah, just not as good a chance. So you were out early, usually we got back around noon, ate lunch, and then went back out about 5, and then hunted till dark. But
now a lot of the mornings, Blake, were you guys kind of using that, because I've heard you mention it, like a higher vantage point, just doing the glassing and then trying to call if you couldn't hear them?
No, really. I mean, we would try to get so these areas, they're almost like what river bottoms are for us here, really thick patches of timber, but there's always like roads and there's little clearings and openings and stuff. So we would just try to get the wind on mornings and evenings both, really just try to get the wind and just move through it with the wind and call, every 300 yards or so. And I mean, 90% of our hunting time was stuck with us all standing there looking at each other, listening. Like, it's unbelievable. What, you know what I mean? Like, you're just listening for anything you can hear, like a stick break or a rack, brush across a branch, or, I mean, a lot of it is just being patient and just listening for that one grunt, or, because he may only grunt one time as he comes all the way in. But he's not going to be quiet coming in. I mean, if you can, like I say, the most descriptive thing I can think of is if you've ever been around cattle and you've heard cattle go through timber, you can hear them, or water,
sure.
you can hear it. Yeah, you can hear it. So you just got to sit there and just listen for that. And it's funny because I was going through some video last night of some clips of us hunting, and like 90% of them were us just standing there looking at each other, like trying to listen.
Right. That's pretty classic. That's kind of what you do, come anytime after 9 o'clock, basically turkey hunting. You kind of, you walk 100 yards, you yelp once or twice, and then you stand there with your hunting partner, and you both look at each other like, did I hear something, or no? Yeah. Was that just a bird?
Yeah, you're all pointing different directions and stuff, like, wait, oh, no, okay.
Yeah, for sure. So your hunt, did you end up shooting yours in the evening?
I shot mine in the morning. Actually, we killed both of them in the morning, which is really crazy. Yeah, the evenings were just so fast and furious. With once he answered you, you had like 20 minutes, and really you had about 10 minutes of good camera light. So it was so much easier in the morning to get on them because you had a little bit more time. you know what I mean? You had a little bit more time to play with, especially with filming.
Right.
In the evenings, it was a lot better hunting in the evening, it seemed like, for calling, but it was a lot more fast-paced, like you would better – it's just like spotting and stalking mule deer.
You're running against the clock.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you've got a certain amount of time that you've got to get this animal killed, so you had to be a lot more aggressive, and it just laid out to where, it was easier for us to get them both killed in the morning for some reason, which I wouldn't have, 3 days into it, I would have told you there was no chance we were going to kill one in the morning. The evening was way better, but
right.
Yeah, I think the daylight factor really played a big factor in it,
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's cool. So how did you end up hooking up with your bull? Was it just a calling sequence that you guys kind of called blindly and heard it, or?
Yeah, I mean, we got right back in the area where we had the encounter with the bull the night before, and just called a couple times. I was pretty quiet with him. I wasn't near as aggressive, near as loud. I called probably, I probably did four or five grunts every 15, 20 minutes, just to try to get something to respond, which he never did grunt back to us at all. We stood up top, it's a field, and the field drops off into the marsh, and we went down the field into the marsh because I wanted to look at the bottom. I told you about the ditch that he came smashing through. I wanted to get on the other side of that ditch to see what that looked like. I had a feeling it was open because as he came in the night before, I couldn't ever hear him walking until he got to that ditch. So he wasn't breaking anything. He wasn't, breaking sticks. So I felt like it was probably open marsh ground.
Right.
But I didn't know. So I wanted to see it because I thought, man, if I can call him back in tomorrow or tonight, that evening, that I'd have a good setup on him to ambush him. And when we got down there, I just stopped and listened for a little bit, and I could hear like hooves in water. You could hear when you get your boot stuck in water and you pull it out, that suction noise.
Yep.
I could hear that, and it was a moose, obviously walking, and I'm like, okay, hang on, there's something down here. Let's just call a little bit. So we called a little bit, and then I heard some raking. So then I answered back with raking and call a little bit more. And you could hear him walking around, but he never came out, obviously, into the clearing and never really grunted back, but he was going back and forth. And then he tried to swing us to get our wind, which is kind of rare. I don't know. I'd say it's rare. We call bulls every day, every morning and every evening. We'd call a bull in, and I would tell you that probably only 10% of them try to get our wind.
No
Everything
kidding.
else, they just came straight on, where it really wasn't an issue. But this bull, I think with the clearing, I think he got to where he could see us and didn't see the moose and went back and then tried to circle us to get some wind to make sure we were what he thought we were. And he didn't realize that when he went to circle our wind, he got out in the open and kind of got up on a levee on us, and we caught him, and when we caught him, he was directly downwind of us. And he was just standing there, and you could tell he was kind of wind checking a little bit, trying to figure it out. But then he just put his head down and came right in like it was nobody's business. So it worked. Yeah, Wow. It was kind of crazy.
That is crazy. So it ended up being, how far was your shot?
About 100 yards.
Man, how cool.
Yeah.
So you hit the moose, and then how far does he go?
So we hit him, and we talked to the outfitter before, and he's like, "Don't stop shooting until the moose is down. Like, they're tanks; they can take some bullets. Just make sure you put them down. If you can still see them, keep shooting." So I shoot him once. He turns, spins, and runs about 15 yards and stops again. And he was behind some brush. I shot again. I think I hit a limb on him. I don't know, but I didn't hit him the second time. And he stayed standing there. So then I took a couple steps out, just into the open, and shot him a third time, which that one just smoked him. And he stood there and started kind of to wobble, and then just fell right there. So he probably went 20 yards after the initial shot there. But he had fallen. He was on the other side of two sloughs, and which made it a bear to get him out of there.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. There's worse places to kill one out there, and I can't imagine what that would be like, because I thought we'd kill him in a pretty good spot to get him out, but I was sadly mistaken. It was still,
still a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you guys, I mean, for that Argo, you said to get him out, did you guys have to gut the animal there, or?
We didn't. We actually kept him whole because we had to float him across a slough with the Argo.
That slough,
so we didn't gut him till we got him all the way back out to the trailer, and then we gutted him up there, and it was just wild. Like, even to load the thing on a trailer is like, you got to jackknife the trailer, then put the Argo on the other side, then winch the moose up onto the trailer. It just blew my mind because it's the stuff that we're just used to just manhandling. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Being able to,
muscle them up, so to speak, with a a regular sized deer or even a big deer with a buddy. You can muscle them up, but impossible task with a moose, no doubt.
Oh yeah, can't even move them. It's unreal.
Yeah, I can't believe I can just kind of envision. For those that don't know, those Argos are like a utility vehicle that, what did they have, 8 wheels on them?
I think so, yeah, 8 wheels.
Yeah, 4 each side. So I can just see those things just spinning mud on you.
Oh yeah,
just flinging it probably.
I posted a clip on Instagram that week, and it was like the Argo's sitting there and all 8 tires are throwing mud and spinning, and it's not even moving. And you go to the moose, and the moose is not even moving. It was just, you have to get runs at it. I mean, you're running a machine like that and running a winch off the front of it to something to get the moose to pull you.
Yeah.
Holy crap. It was just crazy. The machine by itself wouldn't pull it until it got onto really, really solid ground. If there was any mud at all, it wouldn't even pull it without the winch on the opposite side, pulling away. So.
Yeah, I thought your moose was a really good size. Is that typical for what they kill up there in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, they're Canadian moose, so they're not like the big Yukon moose. They're going to be like, I think average is like 50 to 30 is probably a pretty good moose up there. I don't think they've killed much over 50. I could be wrong. But I know that like the day I killed my moose, they killed 10 other moose. And it was, the average size is probably, 30 to 50 is a good moose up there.
For sure,
And there's guys who just shoot meat bulls down there. It's just kind of what you want. John was, we were getting down to our last day, and he had a shot like what he thought was a meat bull, and it was, he just wanted to meat, and he's like, dude, this is, his family eats off of it all year long. It's such good meat. And he's like, I don't care, I just want some meat. So he banged out a meat bull, but there's definitely some big ones there, and there's probably bigger than 50s there. I know last year, Worm went with John and had an encounter with just a pig of a moose that's probably plus 50s easy. He was over 50. He was a stud, and he couldn't get him killed, but got some video of him. And they can usually expect somewhere between 30 and 50 as a big bull up there.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing. Like a 50-incher is approaching what I would call a Yukon size anyways. Like that's a big ass bull, so it's pretty unique. But super cool. So travel wise, Blake, if somebody was thinking about going up there to do that, what kind of helpful hints would you have for somebody traveling up to do that type of hunt? I think one thing to touch on before we talk about the travel is why you would do Saskatchewan, like Blake said earlier, is the price. Versus, what is it, Blake, nowadays in the Yukon is 25,000?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you say 4,800 is cheap. He means it really is cheap in the terms of moose hunting. So
in the moose hunt, yeah.
Yeah, in moose hunt. So with that said, Blake, what was some of the things or obstacles somebody would overcome just traveling up there?
I think for, the port thing's big. Make sure you do your research on, especially if you're going to take a firearm with you. We did not take firearms with us. We took bows, and then we borrowed a firearm from the outfitter, which is completely legal to do in Canada. So we didn't really have to go through that red tape stuff. Just try to make it as easy, streamless process through the border as possible. Make sure you look at what all the import stuff is for Canada. Make sure you're not, it seemed like if you took alcohol with you, if you took tobacco with you, if you, obviously you don't want to take ammunition or things like that. I mean, those are things that they ask for a lot. Obviously, make sure your passport's up to date. Make sure you got a driver's license with you. Other than that, I mean, we took, I'll tell you that my moose, after I had it processed in Battleford before we came back, just so I could pack it a little bit better, and it filled around 300 quarts of cooler total, so about 330. So it filled a 120, a 100, and then a couple other smaller coolers, but it was around 300. Wow.
So that's something you got to think ahead. Yeah,
it's a considerable amount of coolers for what you're going to bring back for your game. We were, fortunate. I was fortunate enough to kill mine early, to where I did have it flash freezed and processed. So we were able just to put it in the coolers, pack them as completely full as I could. You don't want any dead air in there, and then just shut them and don't open them. And we made the drive back, and they were still froze solid when I got home. So we didn't have to mess with dry ice much. On John's, John killed his later in the hunt, so we quartered it all up and then packed it in the coolers as tight as we could, and then put some dry ice in there with a layer of ice over the top of it, just to kind of insulate it.
Sure.
And it stayed the whole time we got back, just never opened it. So you want to look at your meat packing and kind of think about that. We did not take a trailer with us this time, but I think we're going to next year, just because of the space for coolers and things.
Right.
We were lucky. We have the cargo glides that go in the back of our truck, and those things are so cool because you can fully extend them, and you really get 2 truck beds out of it. Yeah, so what we did is fully extended it, and then put the coolers over the framework of it. So in the regular, back of the truck, put all the weight over the tires, and then put all of our totes and stuff out on the end of it, and ratcheted them down. If there would have been no chance to take a regular truck without a cargo glide in it. Like, it just wouldn't have worked. There just wasn't enough room. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not with all the coolers you got to take and everything. But yeah, other than that, I mean, just be prepared. Definitely exchange your money over. We'll learn that lesson, to where when you get up there, the U.S. dollar's worth about 30% more than what the Canadian dollar is. But people will gladly charge you Canadian prices and take your U.S. money dollar for dollar. So
and then give you Canadian money back in return. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So another tip too, like if you ever do go to Canada and there's a casino close, if the casino will do the exchange, they give you the highest exchange rate because they want you to keep the money there. You know what I'm saying? They want you to spend the money in the casino, but you can walk right back out. You don't have to do it there. So that was what we started doing, because it was a great exchange rate, and we didn't even have to gamble or anything. We could just walk right back out the door. So
right. No, those are all good travel tips for sure, and that's one of the stuff I think a lot of guys don't think about. Going anywhere. It's just some of the travel things, and that stuff you kind of learn as you go. So to talk about stuff like that's a huge help to people.
Oh yeah,
for sure. So. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm excited for you, Blake. Excited. I've heard such great things about, like, just the meat alone, that people love moose meat. So I'm sure you have enough meat for at least till next hunting season up in Saskatchewan.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah. I'll have to get you some when you come down there. So
I'd love it.
Man, I ate some yesterday. It's unbelievable.
I've heard such great things. It's crazy. Yeah, so that's really awesome. Yeah. A lot of, I've heard up in Canada, like probably the same as Saskatchewan, but in Alberta, I heard that like the locals will pass on those deer tags just to shoot a moose or an elk, just based on the meat. And and that's why like those two, Providence, like they're not maybe known for like the biggest moose or the biggest elk, is because guys are hunting them, like high pressure, just for the meat, because it's so damn good.
Right. Yeah, I mean some of the Indian stuff, they don't even eat they'll grind their elk and not eat eat the moose and steaks and stuff. Like they just won't. They're like moose. Yeah, they're like, it beats elk all day long.
Oh my gosh, how nuts! Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some then. That was exciting.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
For sure, man. Well, thanks for joining us today, and as always, Blake, let everybody know where you can be found.
Yes, absolutely. So check out the Blake Garrett on Instagram or download the Unfiltered app. You can go to your app store, just search Unfiltered Outdoors. It's completely free to download. You guys can keep up with what we do throughout the year. We stream some live hunts on there. We have some recorded content. There's a bunch of Take Aim podcasts on there as well.
That's right.
Other than that, yeah, make sure you check out Battle River Outfitters. You can just go to battleriveroutfitters.com, or you can hit Brandon or myself up. We can get you the info for it. I'd tell you that, I'm a guy from the Midwest who absolutely never thought I would enjoy moose hunting, and I can tell you that's something that I will never not do again. It was an unbelievable hunt, man.
Yeah, so, that sounds exciting, man. So awesome, Blake. So what's coming up next? I know we'll recap your Kansas, probably Missouri season, and what I think you had one other hunt, right? Nebraska, right?
Yeah, I've got two. Yeah, and I've got a South Dakota late hunt. But yeah, coming up, quickly here, we're kind of hunting a couple odd days, ins and out when the weather's right here in Missouri. Got some clients coming in next week, and kind of start to run some clients quite a bit through the end of October, beginning in November. And then, we got Kansas to throw in there in the mix. Nebraska, still got a tag out there. And I've got a late season Moe's tag at Rosebud Indian Reservation up in South Dakota, so in December. So a bunch of hunts still ahead. So.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome.
See what we can do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks, Blake. And like Blake just said, you can find us on the Unfiltered app, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. So make sure you check us out. Leave us a review if you could, and make sure to download the Unfiltered app. And Blake, we'll catch up soon.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right, man. Thanks.
I will see you. Yeah, bye.
Okay, guys, as we close the show today, I just ask that you do please leave us a review. I haven't asked for a long time, but leave us a review. It helps to get the show out to others. It's a huge, huge help in that aspect. So if you could, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen, tune in, please. Just leave us a review. We really appreciate it. It helps us continue giving out free content every single week. Thanks.